well, they interfered in the last election. Joining me now is former U.S. Acting Attorney General and author of Above the Law, Matt Whitaker. Mr. Whitaker, it's great to see you again, as always, sir.
Chris.
In light of the bombshell allegations made by Zuckerberg, Trump released a statement saying, in part, quote, So now it comes out conclusively that the FBI buried the Hunter Biden laptop story before the election, knowing that if they didn't, Trump would have easily won the 2020 presidential election. Now, this sentiment was echoed by former DNI Radcliffe, Trump official Stephen Miller, and Buck Sexton, along with several others, alleging the FBI interfered in the 2020 election. Now, given the evidence that we have so far, back from 2016 and now 2020, isn't it hard to draw any other conclusion, Mr. Whitaker?
It's not hard to draw any other conclusion because what we have here is a story that was spiked. And you remember that Joe Biden won these states and got to the Electoral College victory by about 40,000 votes. And I've seen public polling that's available that suggests that this information contained on this laptop would have persuaded many people to vote for Trump instead of Biden. And so there is no doubt in my mind that if this story had been out and freely available and promoted the way it should have been as true and, confirmed information, that most likely Trump would have been the runaway winner in 2020.
Yeah, and it seems that everything that's being done to President Trump is an effort to keep the malfeasance of the DOJ and the FBI under wraps. And about the raid, which is the latest installment here, looks like the FBI gobbled up privileged information on their political raid. And now a judge has signaled that a special master could be assigned to go through what was seized. Isn't oversight the legislative branch's job, not the judicial branch? I mean, why is the judicial branch being tasked with overseeing that the FBI is behaving itself? And what does it tell us about the absent Democrats and Republicans in the wake of politically weaponizing the DOJ?
Yeah, I think the judge that's supervising this case, and remember Reinhart, who's the magistrate judge, works for the district court. And in this case, Judge Cannon, I think, is a little skeptical of the FBI and their ability to not only take this information and treat it fairly and use a taint team, but I also think that as we've all looked at the underlying search warrant, that it was overbroad and that what they could grab not only was described as overly broad, but also they did grab things that were not covered by the search warrant, and so including President Trump's passports, and now we learned today attorney-client privilege documents. And so there is no doubt that this court, who authorized the search in the first place, is going to have to provide some oversight and some accountability to the American people, and quite frankly to President Trump, who is the one that has been violated by this FBI action.
Yeah, Mr. Whitaker, let me just ask you a real quick question. Just as you were detailing all of this, a lot of Americans want to know if it is shown that the FBI did indeed violate Mr. Trump's constitutional rights by seizing documents they weren't entitled to seize. Wouldn't jail time, wouldn't punishment for those in charge of the Department of Justice, those in charge of the FBI, isn't that an appropriate action for that? Or is it just like, oh, I'm sorry, our bad, here are your passports back. Oh, here's all your privileged documentation back, our bad. You know what, we get to do those kinds of things. We get to abuse Americans' rights without any consequences. Is that what we're going to see?
Well, you remember the Constitution is the preeminent and ultimate law of the land, and the Fourth Amendment against unreasonable searches and seizures is one of our bedrock principles, in addition to the First and Second Amendment that we all, we hold very dear. And so you're right. If it is proven and demonstrated that the FBI illegally searched President Trump's house in an unprecedented, never before in American history type raid, then yeah, there should be all sorts of consequences. And, until we know all the facts, it's going to be hard for me to point to exactly what those consequences should be. But everything should be on the table. Everything that is available to, President Trump under the law should be available and should be executed. We can't have this two-tiered system of justice where somehow, Donald Trump and his allies are prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law, and Democrats, including Joe Biden, his family, Hillary Clinton, and all of their political allies, get escape without any consequence.
Yeah, and you know what? And that's a perfect point. You know, if the FBI would probably say, "Oh, we took his passport, but it was our mistake. It was only, a passport. Oh, we took these privileged documents, only some privileged documents." Well, President Trump is being accused of withholding newspaper articles by the National Archivist, and they want to bar him from running for political office over that. I mean, hey, if we're going to throw the book at President Trump, let's throw the book at the FBI and the DOJ as well and make sure their leaders are cooling their heels and suffer some consequences. Last question. Wanted to get your reaction to the Biden regime calling the 70 million Americans who believe, actually over 70 million, who believe in making America great. They called them fascists. Listen.
Look, I was very clear when laying out and defining what MAGA Republicans have done, and you look at the definition of fascism, and you think about what they're doing in attacking our democracy, what they're doing in taking away our freedoms, wanting to take away our rights, our voting rights. I mean, that is what that is.
Mr. Whitaker, your reaction to those who want to make America great being called fascists by the Biden regime?
Yeah, it's an absolute nonsense. She has never read the history of the world and understands what fascism is. Freedom-loving Americans all over this country who I interact with on a daily basis only want their country to work for all people, and they don't want a royalty or this regime we now have in Washington where the Democrats set all the rules and then shove it down everyone's throats because they can and because they are the party in charge. And I think it's a shame that really Joe Biden has chosen to slur so many Americans that are, really just want the best for their country, just want liberty, just want to have their children have a better future than the one that they inherited from their parents. And I just think it's shameful that the White House is being abused in this manner by people that don't appear to be even qualified for the job, quite frankly.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. And, they did call us. Joe Biden called those who believe in election integrity, called us his enemies. So I tend to believe him. Yeah. Matthew Whitaker, thank you, sir. Appreciate your time and service. Ahead on the Chris Salcedo Show, Obama himself.